Now if you look behind you, if you rattle the curtain behind you, some of you guys have already heard this, there's another permaculture principle, another way of catching and storing energy. That's emergency blanket. You know that silvery emergency blanket for when your car breaks down in the wintertime? Well, what that stuff is designed to do is reflect heat. So it reflects heat out and it reflects heat back in. So on the sunny side, when it was sunny over here, I closed all the curtains on this side, and that reflects the heat back out. And in the wintertime, when the wood stove is going, we close them and it reflects all the heat back in. The other thing these curtains do, obviously, is stack functions, because the pockets give us storage, they give us privacy, and they help maintain our internal heat control. And of course, waste is a resource. All that purple ripstop nylon was being tossed. It was covering, so it was table coverings at a fairgrounds, and they were changing their color scheme. So they had dark purple, lavender, and pink. 2 55-gallon drums full of ripstop nylon they were throwing away. And being the avid scroungers that we were, it's like, look, it's good stuff that we can scrounge. Yeah. So we call them our permaculture curtains because they have 3 permaculture principles.
Most of the pockets came off of
a lot of old pants and
chewed up by puppies.
There's one in the kitchen that was we had a puppy, and we had a litter of puppies, and it ate my favorite pair of jeans. So I put the belt and the zipper and the pockets all on the curtain. And the other thing with the curtains in the kitchen here that we did. And I've used these curtains in houses. It greatly reduces your heating bill if you make emergency blanket curtains for your houses.
And your cooling bill.
And your cooling bill. Here in the place where they cool places. Is that I put little straps in it to hang the kitchen gadgets.
These should have been a little higher. We didn't think about the stove lip.
But it managed
but it works.
Oh yeah, but it works. It's high enough you see what you're pulling at.
Cool.
And then over here, you have to bring the camera in here.
Let him get through first.
This is our little hydroponic garden. It's hydroponic because all of the nutrients for the garden comes from liquid. It's not soil that we have in there. It's potting mixture. It's perlite, vermiculite, and peat moss. And what that does is it gives the roots something to hold onto, but there's no nutrients in it. So we get all of our nutrients from our worm castings. We were talking about it early, and that creates something they're looking for in permaculture, which is a closed loop. As much as possible, you want the waste of the system to become the input of another system or of that system. And so the waste of the garden or the kit goes, goes from the garden to the kitchen, from the kitchen to the worms, from the to the chickens. The chickens eat what they want and break it up, and then we take all the leftover scraps, throw it to the worms break it down. We take the worm castings, mix it with a little water and seaweed, and dump it in there. We don't make compost tea out of it because 5 gallons of water would just be way too much for that.
We'd have to be carrying around the extra 5 point whatever,
4
point whatever gallons of water.
It takes about 1.5 gallons of water to water the whole thing well, to soak it down. So, and then this is based on a system that we were told about that some grad school students developed. And the system is for shanty towns in Mexico City. And so they couldn't do rooftop gardenings because none of those buildings are structurally sound enough for that kind of weight. So what they did is they ran PVC 8-inch, 6-inch, 4-inch, 3-inch, with the 8-inch being for tomatoes, and then 6-inch for peppers, and on down for the herbs and stuff. And they just ran it in front of everybody's window with holes like this to plant them in. And then they could collect rainwater on the roof and feed the entire system water. And so it was a way to really efficiently use water. And then those people who'd been driven off of their lands for corporate greed then had access to fresh food. You know, it was a way to start bringing some food sustainability back to them. And a really simple, PVC is cheap, it's easy to scrounge, it's easy to get. You know, there are, people occasionally ask me, well, what about, the outgassing of PVC, and there's some dangers of that. And it's just like, if you've ever eaten a piece of produce that you bought, even organic produce that you've bought at Safeway, it's grown by I-5 in California. And the contaminants that are coming off of I-5 are worse for you than the contaminants you're going to get from a little PVC. So we all have to choose. And if it means if this means you can garden as opposed to you can't, it's a far better way to. You're going to get fewer chemicals than if you buy standard food. The basil this year, I had a different variety last year that did much better. And so as soon as I find a couple of plants, some plants of that different variety, I'll switch it out. Because we'll stay in summer for a long time. But we got spearmint and parsley that doesn't have a big enough root system, and a little oregano starting to grow, thyme, garlic chives, peppermint, and something's coming up on its own here.
It's our volunteer.
So I haven't planted anything there yet because I'm waiting to see what actually volunteers. It's just this little one. I don't know what it is yet. I don't know.
Don't know
The
yet.
hairy.
Yeah, I
hairy
haven't
stem.
figured it out. It seems to me that it could almost be the peppermint coming, that the peppermint would actually send a root that far, but it doesn't look like the peppermint. So I don't know what, so we're just letting it develop to see what it becomes. And then we
Good job,
have a
volunteer
full-size
plant.
pantry and a queen-size bed with a single bed bunked above it. This whole front area, we can set boards across and turn this into one giant sleeping platform. Because we live in a bus doesn't mean we can't have company. That's where Lorca, who's interning with us, sleeps at night. And then and then our gray water system, which is now plumbed. We have it plumbed to, so this connects into the gray water system. So if we overwater and water trickles out, it connects into the gray water system down here, and then goes down to underneath the bus, and to the other side where we can go outside and see the gray water system out there, about how it's actually set up. And then in the back is our humanure system. So yep, it's just all connected and goes down to the floor of the bus and runs across the floor to there. Pretty simple gray water system. That's the sink. The kitchen sink is hiding underneath the relative location. We always tell people it's relative. It's the relative location is where we hide our dirty dishes. We actually did dishes this morning, so we don't have dirty dishes to hide right now. But the poster still goes there. You gotta hide your dirty dishes.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. So, should we look at the?
Yes, we are a donation-based organization, and have managed to survive on donations for a year and a half. We don't know how. Keep on going. Every time we think we're not going to have gas money, the next place it appears.